Welcome to our very last episode of Battle for the Belt 1.0. We have 3 years of data now looking at corn versus soybean planting date decisions. We started in 2023, which seems like it wasn't that long ago. And then we continued in 2024 and now ended in 2025. So the goal of this project is to really look at corn versus soybean, which crop should have planting priority in the spring. And we can answer a lot of questions along with that main question, such as which crop has the smallest yield penalty for delayed planting, how do we adjust management practices to help mitigate losses due to late planting, and then how are insects, diseases, weeds, and all these other factors influenced by planting date.
A little bit about the project. We implemented the research question by doing 5 planting date ranges, all 3 years. Ultra early planting date, that is late March into early April. Early planting from mid to late April. We also have a normal planting date, which is roughly early to mid-May. Late planting date from late May into early June. And a very late planting date, which is from mid to late June. So we cover quite a bit of a range for planting dates here in Ohio. This was corn and soybeans side by side in 2 different fields at the 3 research stations that I will be highlighting in a second. What else did we do? In addition to those 5 planting date ranges, we also asked the question, what other management practices should be changed or adjusted as we plant early or as we plant late, whether it's corn or soybeans? The answer to that question is, in theory, what we want to be looking at if we are doing early versus late planting dates in soybeans is looking into seeding rate adjustments. So we had 4 different seeding rates, 100,000 seeds per acre and as high as 210,000 seeds per acre. On the corn side, we are not thinking on seeding rates. Now we need to think on relative maturities. We had 4 different relative maturity hybrids. One is a 100-day hybrid and the longest one, a 115-day hybrid. All of these management decisions or adjustments were informed using our Ohio State agronomy guide. The plots, they were established at the 3 research stations. These are the 3 main agronomic places where we do agronomic research in Ohio. Western location, that is Clark County. Northwest location, that is in Wood County. And the Northeast location, which is in Wayne County. So if you think about it, 3 years of this project, 3 different locations, we are summarizing, we wrapped up the work in 9 total environments. Each environment, 5 planting dates, multiple seeding rates, and multiple relative maturities. It adds up to a big project, and now our task today is to try to summarize a big picture view of those results in the next couple of minutes.
So this is a soybean graph. This is all years and all locations combined. So 3 locations, 3 years. On the vertical axis, we're looking at relative yield as a percentage. And this is a normalized yield because we know different locations across the state have different yield potentials. And then across the bottom of the graph here is the planting dates. The 4 lines with the 4 symbols represent our 4 different seeding rates, going from 100,000 seeds per acre all the way up to 210,000 seeds per acre. So when we look at these years and locations combined, we see when we have a seeding rate of 140,000 seeds per acre, our yield was maximized at that April 9th planting date. And it was fairly similar across the other seeding rates, just we had higher yields at a really high seeding rate and lower yields at that 100,000 seeding rate. And then if we look at a range of yields, for soybeans, we actually never had a yield penalty when we look at all of our locations combined and years combined for planting too early. But we do see about a 5% yield loss in relative yield when we plant beyond May 12th. So really targeting right around that crop insurance date for soybeans up to May 12th is really probably the ideal time to plant soybeans.
Now we are looking at the results for corn, all years, all locations combined. On the vertical axis, we have relative yield, and on the horizontal axis, we have planting dates. Our data shows results starting as early as late March and as late as late June. So that's the whole range that we are seeing in this figure. The different lines or colors, they represent the different relative maturities for corn. Over the results, basically, we see that May 1st planting date is helping us is when we achieve or maximize corn yield, almost regardless of the hybrid. Our best yielding hybrids in this data set, 115-day hybrid, 107, and 111. So they were pretty close to each other on the top. And the blue line that you see in the bottom, that's pretty much a 100-day hybrid that we add to the mix. And that's that 100-day hybrid will not do good if you are planting it early. It can do okay if you are planting it late. So this is what we have. In terms of if you are okay accepting a 5% yield loss in order to open up your planting window for corn, that gives us quite a bit of a range. If we were planting anytime between April 2nd and May 20th, we are within that 5% yield loss range. So that's almost 2 months window, and yet, based on these results, only losing that 5%. Of course, a lot of this is location dependent and as well as environmental conditions dependent. Some years will favor an earlier planting for corn. Some years will favor a later planting for corn as well.
So in terms of soybean, prioritizing it earliest or in fact latest planting dates is probably optimal in most situations. When we plant early, soybean plant population is reduced because of all kinds of stress. But the plant itself is very plastic, and so if soybean plant population is reduced, it can compensate with additional branches where corn can't compensate the same way that soybean can. So really, from what we've seen with this research, prioritizing maybe soybean first if conditions aren't great, planting corn when the date is perfect, the soil conditions are perfect, the weather conditions are perfect is good, and then going back to soybean if you need to finish up. So I'll let Osler. Who won, Osler?
I think that soybeans won. As Laura just summarized, really pushing soybeans into the earliest dates gave us better results over time and over the years, over locations and years. Looking for that sweet spot for corn is really what our data shows, and also what we hear from a lot of people talking to farmers around the state. They a lot of them support that soybeans can go first and corn comes second.
And that's really only because soybeans can withstand that stress a lot better than what corn can.